You know, now that you're recording beforehand, I feel like I'm pressured to make jokes before we even get started.
I mean, are you neurotic or something?
Maybe. I mean, do you got to play on those fears?
What's that?
Said you got to play on those fears?
I do.
Oh man. So yeah, this Thursday is gonna be a real barn burner. I think it is it at Texans?
Oops. Could be.
Yeah, it's at Panthers at Texans.
Panthers look decent, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously. I'm curious what the line's gonna be. 6.5.
6.5.
I mean, they're 2-0.
And their defense looked tight.
I'm gonna, without looking it up, I'm gonna say the over or the line 6.5, over under 46 points.
Line is 8.
Oh damn.
Over under is 443. Davis Mills is starting at quarterback for the Texans.
Yeah. Tyrod can't catch a break, man. I feel
Nope.
kind of bad for him.
Nope. He's a good quarterback, man. You just can't catch a break.
Like, I think Tyrod Taylor is an unfortunate Teddy Bridgewater.
And look at Teddy right now. Teddy's playing all right too.
Yeah. Atticus said he's going to be here, right?
I think he did. As long as he's not on the other one, he read the memo.
These CPAs, man, can't trust them to be anywhere on time.
I know, right? It's like the only date that matters to them is April 15th. And that doesn't even really count anymore.
That's really just a suggestion. It's not really a. Do you hear about that dude who had the 16-team parlay?
No.
Yeah, there was a guy. He had a 16-team parlay, bet $25. He was in line to win it was like 750,000 and change, like 756,000 or something like that. And except he bet the Lions to beat the Packers. Nailed everything else, but picked the Lions over the Packers.
Was he from Detroit? Because that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, when you're parlaying that much, I'm sure there's like I mean, you're betting $25, right?
Sure.
And like, I mean, at that point, I'm sure there's like a $200,000 difference between picking Green Bay and Detroit in that situation. I mean, I don't know how you calculate what a parlay bet's going to be worth, but I feel. Let me text Atticus, make sure see if he's coming on. I think Liesel's getting a new car this weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think she's gonna get a Tucson.
Living it up, man. New house,
Yeah.
new car.
She's got a she actually has a Volkswagen Atlas right now. But she's got like it's a 2019 Volkswagen Atlas, but she put like a ridiculously large down payment on it. And then she's been like overpaying like every month by like $70 or something.
Yeah.
And so she's got something ridiculous, like $25,000 worth of equity in this car. And I'm like, yeah, you can't do it. Like unless the car is paid off, it doesn't make sense to have that kind of equity, because you get into a car wreck and you might as well just set $25,000 on fire. Like there's no financial reason to have that much equity in a car. There he is. Like unless it's like a classic car that like could, you know, like an old school, like, you know, a 67 Chevy or something that could like appreciate or will hold value. Like a run-of-the-mill 2019 Atlas isn't a car you keep that kind of equity in.
Nope.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Morning.
How are you?
Doing well,
Doing well, man. Feeling good.
Good.
Ah.
Well,
Sorry I'm late. My computer, I guess it went through an update, and I logged in or turned my computer on time and went through 5 minutes of updates. So here we are.
Here we go.
It's that microphone. Where is that mic? Wait, did I see you put on a regular microphone? Where's the mic?
It's right here. It's
All right.
just out of camera focus. So let me see if I can aim down a little bit.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
I like it. I like it. There it is.
It's positioned in an awkward space,
Yeah.
though.
Put it on the side of you. Put it on the side.
What, over here?
Yeah, it'll still pick you up. Can it make it? There you go. That at least doesn't look awkward. Before it just looked kind of not appropriate for our PG-13 show.
It didn't look quite right.
It's not good for our one fan from Jakarta, Indonesia.
All right, so you ready to you just gonna dive right into it, Mike?
Yeah, let's just dive right into it, man. Like fortunately for Atticus, we already did the Giants game because that was a Thursday night game. So we already recapped that heading into the weekend. Some really good games over the weekend. A couple surprises, based off of where we were going into the season, who we thought was going to do what. And, I think one of those would be, the first game would be the Bengals and Bears, right?
Yeah.
So the Bengals, they're both 1-1 now. Bears beat them 20-17. Their defense looks like it's back. All right. Thoughts on that game? Anybody? Other than Dalton getting injured, because we can get into that. Talk about Fields coming over.
So, I mean, I'll give the Bengals this. I think they're a lot better than I would have thought they were going into the season. Even though they lost this game, it took Burrow throwing 3 interceptions and 4 passes or whatever it was for it to kind of happen. And even then, after throwing 3 straight interceptions, they still had a chance at the end, right? So, I mean, Justin Fields got into that game. Typical start for a rookie. I feel like he didn't do anything. So, I mean, they still won the game, but he did what he did. I think he threw for 60 yards and maybe had a run or something like that.
And a pick.
But yeah, I mean, I'll say this. My takeaway from that game, even though they lost, is I think the Bengals are definitely a lot harder of an out. Like, they definitely seem to be one of those teams that has become sneaky good. Like, they're going to be like the best worst team this year. Yeah, I guess is the way I would phrase that. They're going to be one of the better bad teams in the league. Their record might still be crappy by the end of it, but they're gonna it's gonna be a lot tighter playing than I think a lot of teams are gonna feel comfortable doing.
I don't see them being one of the worst teams. I see them being middle of the pack. They're playing some pretty good football right now. And they have a potent offense. other than 3 picks in a game. But you know, it's just one of those things where they're in a really tough division. They got to play the Steelers, the Browns, and the Ravens twice. And you know, chances of them splitting those games are probably slim. You know, but they're not, I don't think they're going to lose all 6. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting team. They'll finish last in the standings unless something crazy happens. Like, I mean, Pittsburgh's got to worry. Apparently, Roethlisberger has a deltoid or a pectoral injury going on right now, and that can't be good. So, you know, I see Cincinnati being sneakily middle of the pack.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to be better than I thought. Like I said, better than advertised going into the season.
I have no comment on either one of these teams or that game, rather. I didn't see much of it. I just saw some of the highlights. I think that the Bears have done the honorable, while it's probably a good thing that they started Andy Dalton. They told him they brought him over to be the starting quarterback. Then they made spent some draft capital to get Justin Fields, who's highly touted coming into the league this year. I think he's definitely their future. They got rid of Trubisky, who's now a backup in Buffalo. I think that Justin Fields showed that he could spend some time sitting on the bench and learning from a starting quarterback. I think that has actually proven to be a good idea for a lot of quarterbacks who found success in this league. And it showed. He really needs to continue to learn. He didn't play terrible, but I still don't know that he's going to be the solution right now for them. I think they're going to build. You can't just gloss over 3 picks, though, for Joe Burrows. You know, we talk about they looked a little bit better than we thought they would. 3 picks is still 3 picks. If that were Danny Dimes, people would be like, pull him now, put Glennon in, draft your future quarterback, or some other quarterbacks too. They'd be saying the same thing. 3 picks is still 3 picks. I don't care how you dress that one up. That's tough. But I do think that the Bengals defense is probably going to hold them over enough until the Cincinnati Bengals get their legs under them. And we don't know when that's going to be. Maybe the 4th or 5th week of the season. I think that's going to be the play teams' true identities will be revealed come week 4 and 5, where there are question marks. Certain teams, you already know who they are. But those teams who've got new coaching staffs, new entirely new offensive line, like Kansas City has it. Every player on their offensive line is brand new this year. We really don't know who they are, though they've started the season pretty well. And I think that same thing holds true with Cincinnati as a whole. So
you said something really interesting there, and I think it's a nice segue, right? Like I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time talking about the Bengals and the Bears, but you said, you know, it's going to take them a little bit of while to get their feet under them, right? Let's talk about a team that does have their feet under them, you know, and that'd be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, you know, just how in sync they really look. Like, I mean, I don't know what Gronkowski did when he retired. I thought he went out to LA and partied a lot. He must have made a trip to Florida, found the Fountain of Youth or whatever it might be. But, like, if you take his last 3 games heading into the playoffs and then his first 2 games going into this season, like he is a force to be reckoned with. And him and Tom Brady are in sync, like just because they play together for so long, and it's noticeable how well they're playing. But then there's the rest of the team, man. Like Tampa Bay looks like they might be unbeatable. It's just my thought.
So I'm going to disagree on that, just because until the defense kind of stepped up there in the last half of the 4th quarter, that was a 25-28 ball game against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that just got squashed by your Eagles the week before. You know, I will say they closed it out, but I that's one of those games to me that jumps out where the final score doesn't look as close as the game was, in my opinion. Because like I said, up until like they had a pick six, and then there was another defensive thing that led to an easy score. Up until that point, it was 25-28 in the fourth. And then their defense kind of, shut the door late against the Falcons. I'm not saying they're not great. I'm not saying they're not a good, strong Super Bowl contender. I think saying they looked unbeatable, maybe a bit stretched for me at this point.
Well, that's why
I think
they
you're
play.
both right.
That's why they play 60 minutes. You know what I mean? That's why a football game is 60 minutes, and you can't give Tom any time in the fourth quarter. You just can't, because it really doesn't. It doesn't matter. Go ahead,
Right.
Matt.
No, I was just going to say the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put a 40 burger up on these people should say a lot too. We're still talking about the Atlanta Falcons, and it's not to diminish the career that Matt Ryan has had, but he's at the tail end of a career where he is not playing his best football either. Granted, and part of the Buccaneers' success that they're experiencing this year is carryover. Remember, there was a lot of restructuring of contracts for those guys to all stay together this year. They did a great job of keeping that team together. I think every one of them returned. So the shortened preseason, maybe starters across the league getting to play 15 snaps at best per team, they looked real good. But again, we're still very early in the season, and injuries is something that will shift a team from doing great to holy shit, what happened, real fast. And I'm not saying that, I mean, there'd have to be a few injuries on that team the way that they're playing right now, but are we really seeing who they're going to be moving forward? It's a 17-game season. And there's some players on that team that are aging too. And their tank's going to start to get a little depleted, and you're going to have to start managing minutes and plays and stuff like that as we get deeper into the season. So I don't know. Do they look unbeatable right now? You're fucking right, they do. They look damn good. Gronkowski looks like, what's the kid? Pitts is his name? The tight end from that's in Atlanta right now. He looks like he's his age, playing ball the way you expect him to play ball right now. And he's playing pretty well too, by the way. But can that carry through for 17 games? I don't know. And I agree with what Chris said. I mean, it was against the Atlanta Falcons. The defense didn't wake up until, thank God they did for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' sake. But I just don't know that I believe that they're going to be like the 2011 New England Patriots, which were probably the most unbelievable team I've ever seen. But they look good now. Can't deny that.
So we mentioned the Falcons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll segue to the Eagles a little bit. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I'll chime in here and there. They held Atlanta to 6 points. So maybe Philly's defense is better than people gave them credit for. They have an unfortunate injury, though. They're losing Brandon Graham for the season. He's done.
Yeah, that's a tough loss.
They have Josh Sweat, who is a nice bonus to have in that rotation.
Just restructure his contract also?
They gave him the bag. They gave him some money. And Barnett. So like Barnett to me is the one that needs to step up and fill the void, because I think Sweat's going to do it, right? But the Eagles defense, man, they only gave up 17 against San Fran. So, 6 against Atlanta. It's Atlanta. But Matt Ryan's still Matt Ryan. He still threw for 300 yards, against Tampa Bay, against a Super Bowl winning defense. So it is early in the season. It's just the way that Brady's playing. I don't think he's gonna lose. Not much. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're gonna go undefeated, but to me, they are the team to beat. Close second would be the Rams in the NFC.
So again, I know we're two games into the season, but are there any teams that are either 2-0 or 0-2 that are kind of surprising? I think the Raiders being 2-0, especially considering who they've beaten. One being the the Super Bowl, a Super Bowl contender in the Ravens, and then coming back and beating the Steelers, on the road. I think that's pretty impressive. I don't know if you would have told me they would be one of the last remaining. There's a lot of 1-1 teams. I was just scrolling through the records really quick. And of the 2-0 teams, which as of right now are the Broncos, Raiders, Niners, and
Cardinals.
and Panthers. Okay, the Cardinals. I didn't catch the Cardinals there. Yeah, so the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals, I guess I would say, look to be the best all around 2-0 team. But the as of right now, and I'm not saying that ultimately we're gonna. I think the Raiders are better than the 49ers, but just through 2 games, I think they've looked better than the 49ers. The 49ers gave up 30 something points to the Lions and then turned around the next week and only, it was a tight game up until the, again, the fourth quarter with the Eagles. Now I think they ended up covering that Eagles game, right? Because I think the line was 3.5, but that game was in doubt until the end. I mean, the Eagles made that late score. And I kind of agree with you. I think maybe the Eagles defense is a little bit better than we thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
The 49ers did put up 40 something the week before on the Lions. And then they came back, then they turned around and only gave up, we're only able to get 17 on the Eagles. So maybe there is something to that, but I think the Raiders surprised me at 2-0 and
Panthers too. I'm surprised they're 2-0.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is you want to talk about crashing back to earth. Jameis Winston.
Yeah, how about it?
Talk about a tale of 2 halves there.
Somebody tried to make a trade with him in the league the other day.
Someone had interest in him, so I was like, all right, I'll trade him.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, and Detroit, they're 0-2, but like they held their own for a minute in Green Bay last night. And that's no tall feat if you look at everything all together, right? Like if you look at it all combined, you knew that Rodgers was going to come out and play well. You knew the team was going to play different. It's at home. It's in Green Bay. Like that's just not going to happen. That's not Aaron Rodgers' style. And Detroit, they held on for a little while until, it's like that, if we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay score didn't, give justice to the game. The Monday night game last night didn't really give justice to the game. That was a really interesting game until Green Bay just pulled away at the end, so them putting up 40, against Detroit, when we were talking about San Francisco, I'm not certain that Detroit has a stellar defense. I'm more interested in like the Eagles and how they played, right? Like I think the game was a defensive ball game, without a doubt. Neither quarterback threw for 200 yards. I think the Eagles rushed for over 100 yards as a team, but a large part of that was Jalen Hurts. And they held San Francisco's running game in check as well. Not a moral victory kind of person. Eagles shot themselves in the foot a lot. I think that the coach got, caught up in the moment, going for it, instead of just putting 3 points on the board. I think that, after you throw a 91-yard touchdown, you're at home. Let's go for it on 4th down. No, man, take the points. So that's a rookie coach mistake. Hopefully he'll learn. I don't think that's not his makeup. That's not his style from what I've seen. So, it's just one of those things where, that game could have, I think a lot is said for the Eagles. It's not going to be an easy out for anybody this year.
Would you have kicked there, Mike?
I would have kicked the field goal there.
Yeah.
It's too early in the game.
Would you have kicked there, Chris?
Yeah, no, I would have too. The one thing I will say too, not to take anything away from the Eagles defense, but holding the 49ers run game in check. I mean, they're about 2 injuries away from calling Atticus up and seeing what he's doing next Sunday. So they're on like their 6th running back already. So
Aren't
don't
they
know what-
always though? Seriously, aren't they always on their sixth running back?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. I was
score,
about to say, I don't know what's up with San Francisco and not being able to like make it through a week without losing 5 running backs, but here we are. I think they lost like 2, like
They
one
lost
running
2 in a
back
game against the Eagles.
and yeah, like someone got injured for the season, another one is out for a couple weeks.
Well, injuries,
Maybe
period, are starting to pile up across the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know at one point Adam Schefter put out that like, because Baker Mayfield was it looked bad when it happened. His shoulder like was just like his arm was just like dead. And I think he was like the 4th quarterback to get injured at that point.
Apparently Carson Wentz sprained both ankles in the game. Both.
Oh, poor Carson Wentz. There goes that draft pick. Hope you weren't banking on it, but you think maybe he knows and he's just doing this on purpose? Like, how do you sprain both your
I
ankles?
think he's going to try to play on Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't think they should play him.
They shouldn't,
Yeah.
but I think that, just from history, like he's not one to sit on the bench. Let me walk it off.
Yeah.
Rub some dirt on it. I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And that's probably part of his problem. But the other part of his problem is like, he doesn't get rid of the ball. He holds on to it way too long, which makes him susceptible to hits that he doesn't need to be taking. And it's just that's how he's made up. It's in his DNA, and no one's been able to change that. But like you look at Rivers last year at quarterback for Indianapolis, how many times he got sacked versus the pace that Wentz is on right now, and the line is essentially the same. So it's a Carson Wentz problem. It's not an offensive line problem. I think in Philly it was probably a little bit of both, but like he just doesn't like to throw the ball.
His style of play in Philly was a little different too. I mean, he did a lot of improvising back there in Philly, and I mean, some of the things that he was able to escape from were unbelievable. And then the coaching staff, it looked like they tried to change his game to something that just wasn't Carson Wentz. And that's when you started to see the decline. And it probably started in the locker room with him resisting the change that they were trying to coach him to do. So,
and before he came out of the game, he wasn't playing bad against the Los Angeles Rams, which, I think preseason we all agreed was one of the tougher defenses in the league.
They're moving the ball, like I don't want to say easily, but they were. I mean, they were getting first downs. They were going up and down the field, about as easy as you can against the Rams anyway. It wasn't until Wentz went out and whoever came in that's when it all kind of started to fall apart. And even then, I think that the Rams didn't win by a whole lot, right?
They won by a field goal.
Yeah. So
but on the other side of the ball, how seamless a transition for that 2-0 team and their quarterback, right? Like Matt Stafford stepped in and looks like he's been playing there for a decade with those players.
And McVay knew it would be that way.
That's
That's why he was willing to give up 2 first-round picks and his quarterback for him. He knew it.
So just to round it out, a couple surprise games. Titans over the Seahawks was somewhat surprising. Although if you watch the end of that game, it felt like the refs were trying to give it to the Seahawks. There was Julio Jones. Now I will say I had a stated interest in that game because Tannehill is my fantasy quarterback in our league. So I was kind of paying attention to that game just because at that point my game was kind of tight. But they had a touchdown from Julio Jones called back. They said he was out of bounds, even though if you freeze frame it, which I get they can't do there, but if you freeze frame it, you can see the grass between the end of the end zone and his cleat. In overtime, Russell Wilson was they called intentional grounding, but they said Russell Wilson was not in the end zone, even though in replay he's clearly like a yard into the end zone. So they didn't get a safety. Now the Titans did score and end it on like the next possession after that. But there were a couple calls that went the Seahawks way and they weren't able to capitalize. So that game was kind of surprising to me. And then the Cowboys Chargers game, I'm sorry, I don't think Dallas won that game so much as the Chargers lost it.
Yep.
They had, I want to say they had like 2 touchdowns and a field goal pulled off the board for penalties. And I want to get into the taunting, the excess taunting penalties here in a minute, but that was another game that kind of stood out to me as surprising. I just, the Chargers at no point looked like, the Cowboys have a good offense. I'm not going to say they don't, but they were held to 20 points, and the Chargers easily left, like I just said, like 17 points on the field that was taken off from penalties. So
Well, you also talked about the officiating, and I think across the league, we've seen some really bad officiating this year also. You talked about a couple of things that they dropped the flag for taunting, and then they had to pick it up because it was moot based on the fact that there was another penalty on the same play, which was enforced. And then they even said, we're not going to enforce the penalty for taunting. Why even bring it up if you're going to decline it anyway by rule for the other one? It was just ridiculous. He talked about you could still see on, the freeze frame. That's why we have instant replay, though. You need to be able to correct stuff like that because the whole nation can't see it. We should not have the ability to see that was a bad call better than you, the person who can affect the real change.
Right.
So there's so many different things that have happened on the wrong side of officiating that has really altered, and not for nothing, you should never put the game in the hands of the officials, right? However, sometimes it happens. I mean, this is the NFL. Sometimes it boils down to that call. Tell that to, who was it? The Rams and the Saints in a championship game. Mm-hmm. That's why you have that, because you can't have that happen.
Right. Well, and just to piggyback off of what you said, in the NFL, the difference between the Vikings and the Cardinals is that much, even though most of us would favor the Cardinals in that matchup and they did win the game, the difference is like,
sure,
half a foot, right? So, I mean, these games are going to come down to these refs. And the problem that I have with these taunting things is okay, there is a line, right? I get that there has to be a line somewhere. For me personally, I've never liked the aggressive step over a guy. I think that's a bit much. I've never liked that, but just going back through history, like football is a passionate game, right? And if you just go back throughout history, like the Mile High Salute, the Icky Shuffle, the Lambeau Leap, like we know all these things, all these different celebrations. Would those be taunting now? You know what I'm saying? Like, would those be flagged? And we know certain things because, some of these moments are iconic. Dion's dancing. Now, there's a difference between that and, say, Terrell Owens running out to the star and posing. That's fine. I get that. But, like, it's a passion.
I even like that.
What'd you say?
I even like that.
Did you like that? That was pretty bad.
It was bad.
That was
right?
bad.
He did it twice in the same game, right? But it's
wait a minute, that wasn't Dion, that was T.O., wasn't it?
That was T.O. against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
everything came full circle when he became
you like
a Cowboy.
it because he was in an Eagles uniform when he did it.
It was phenomenal.
It gets to a point where you're taking away an aspect of the game that we like. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's one other league that's this strict on celebrating, even though it's not enforced by a ref per se, but like the unwritten rules of baseball, where if you stare at a home run too long or you trot a little too slow and all this stuff, and then you're getting pegged with baseballs. I mean, and look at the viewership. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like they're trying to legislate these things out of football, and part of it's what all those things I said were iconic. Like, I don't even need to name the player, but if I say Mile High Salute, you know who I'm talking about. And why the NFL wants to kind of do away with this kind of stuff, I don't
know that they're trying to do away with end zone celebration type of things, but the taunting, I kind of get it. Like, you don't want to direct it at an individual, but if you just made a one-handed grab in the end zone with 12 seconds left in the game, you're going to show some passion and celebrate. What I don't like is when you see the entire defense run down to get in front of the camera in the end zone on a tip pass interception play that you got knocked on your ass from an offensive lineman and didn't gain any yardage from. Okay, you intercepted the ball. Get your ass on the sideline. That's what we pay you to do. I don't like that, but
The NFL paid them to do that though. Like that was a COVID thing. Like
I
they
don't
didn't
like
have,
it. I
they didn't
never
have the
liked it.
cameras in the end zone until last year with the screen. They didn't have the screen until last year because they wanted to still have, you know, that fan interaction because there wasn't anybody in the stands. So the NFL's to blame for that one.
That was
right?
horrible.
But like, let's look at the title of our group: Football Trash Talk for Real Fans. Right? Do you think these professional athletes don't talk trash? Trash talk has been synonymous with sports from probably inception. You talk about iconic, who pointed a home run? Whether he actually did or didn't, you know who I'm talking about. That happened in 1923 or whatever it was, right? Like they've been talking shit for a long time. You know, as long as they don't cross a line, like you got to be man enough to take your fucking licks too, right? Like, you know, you can't be Josh Norman and start swinging because a receiver like, you know, stood over you because he just caught a ball, you know, in tight coverage. You know, that's an exciting play, right? If the stands are going crazy, if I'm the player, I'm probably going a little bit crazy too. And you know, things just happen naturally. You know, the shit talking is part of the game. And the NFL to me is making it the no fun league, right? They're going to start, you know, throwing flags. It's like they're concentrating on that more so than the calls they should be making.
It just makes me think of this meme when they first started like flagging receivers for excessive celebration. And there was this meme. It's one of the first memes I ever remember. And it was this picture of, I think, Chris Carter. So that's about how old this meme is. But it was like, he just juked the DB out of his boots, ran 80 yards in 6.7 seconds, and caught a pass between two defenders. Let the guy friggin' dance.
Yeah.
Like we want that stuff. That's what we want. Like as much like, again, there are lines, I get it, but it shouldn't be anytime the guy turns around and just does a little flex. Like, sorry, that's not it, we wouldn't even notice 90% of it if it wasn't getting flagged so much last Sunday.
Yeah.
So I think they're overstepping and they need to tone it down.
You know what I do like that the league did this season is they have those little goal line orange cone markers at the first down markers with cameras in them now. So you get a better view of when it's a 4th and inches, 3rd and inches or whatever, you can really see right down that line if that person got that first down or not. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, I like it.
Go ahead.
No, I just said I like that too.
Mhm.
Right? Because it's too many times. Like, did his knee go down? Did the ball really cross the plane?
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, it's a touchdown, and we've probably seen more for, you know, 1st and 1 from the, you know, 1st and goal from the 1 this year than I think we've seen in a while, at least through two games, right? Like it's happened a couple times that I can remember, and I just don't remember seeing that, you know. And it's just it's a good call for the NFL to have that camera.
Yeah.
I would be
picks
remiss
this week
if
or
we-
no?
What's up?
What'd you say?
Are we doing picks for next week?
Yeah, we're gonna
That'll
do
be
Thursday's
Friday.
game.
We'll talk about the Thursday night game here in a minute. The one last game I just wanted to touch on, because it was probably the game of the week, was Ravens over Chiefs in Baltimore.
Gutsy call.
Yeah, gutsy call. I liked it, you know, and so obviously I follow some Browns boards, and there's a lot of talk about, well, as a Browns fan, who should I want to win this game? And my answer was, even though I picked the Chiefs to win it going into the game, I'm glad the Ravens won because, you know, from a Browns perspective, we play the Ravens twice, so we can control our destiny a little bit to that point, even though them starting 0-2 would have been nice. But the Chiefs, there's only so many teams the Chiefs are going to play that can legitimately beat them, and the Ravens are one of them. So I'm glad that happened from the Browns playoffs point of view. But that was a gutsy call, back and forth game. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was a good, prime time Sunday night game. And it's cool it happened week 2. Usually you wait till like week 5, 6 before games like that start to happen. So that's good on the schedule makers for getting that one done right out the gate.
I agree, right? And I think that somebody on this podcast said that Lamar had to have a Mahomes-esque game, right? For a lot of reasons. One, for them to even have a chance to win. But two, just because, he didn't look, he looked human in week 1, right? So he didn't do it with his arm, but he certainly did it with his legs, right? And like, he made some moves in that game running the ball. Like, if people think they have Lamar figured out, they need to go back to the video, because he continues to do things. It's like Barry Sanders when he's playing quarterback, right? Like, he just got too many moves. He's too slippery. And, he's going to give his team a chance to win the ball game, right? He had almost 400 yards of total offense. It's pretty good, pretty good. I thought the Chiefs were going to win. So I was surprised that the Ravens were actually able to pull that one out.
Well, they flipped the script on them too, because usually it's the Chiefs that, like, I think, we talked after the Chiefs beat the Browns, we talked a little bit about how the Chiefs, the last 5 5 out of the last 6 times they've gone in down, 10 plus at half, they come back to win the game. And I'm pretty sure, at halftime, or I'm trying to quickly add up the score, but at one point the Ravens were down double digits and they came back to win. So, they blanked the Chiefs in the 4th quarter and scored 12 of their own, and they needed every one of those 12 points to win. So good on them. Good on them.
Somehow they held Tyreek Hill in check. 3 catches for 14 yards is ridiculous. He goes like 17 for 189 to 3 for 14. That's just insane.
It's unbelievable.
Well, they were essentially like, I remember at one point they were talking about during the game, they were essentially like saying, you can beat us with anyone else, you're not beating us with Tyreek Hill. Like, he was basically getting like double, if not triple teamed. He was getting the Megatron treatment is what he was getting at that game. So then it worked. So, once again, good on them, because the Ravens, I think the Ravens had that pedigree of having a great defense, but I don't think their defense is like, it's not horrible, but it's not what it was like in the early 2000s that kind of give them the reputation of being a defensive football team, even though I still think when people think of the Ravens, they think defensive football.
They do.
It's a wild contrast from week 1 to week 2. So week 3, I'm really looking forward to, right? Like, which teams are going to show up. Steelers, they had, like, it looked like they put out 2 different squads between week 1 and week 2, at least on defense. Eagles, I don't know. Giants, they actually, Danny Dimes actually had a really nice game. They just they let Heineke beat them. That's terrible. And they had a big injury on the offensive line. So, it's gonna be some weird things going into week 3. Thursday night game, though, gentlemen. I think, Chris and I were talking a little bit, Atticus, before we got on. It's gonna be a barn burner, man. We got the Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers. Right now, Carolina's favored by 8. Over-under is 42. The Houston Texans are starting Davis Mills, right? And that's another thing we were talking about before we got on, was Tyrod Taylor just can't catch a break, man. Dude's a good quarterback, like, they weren't expected to start Herbert last year in San Diego. I mean, it worked out for them, but they weren't expecting to do that. They were expecting to ride Tyrod for a year.
Did I not say this a week ago about Tyrod Taylor?
You did. It's terrible.
It always happens to him.
Terrible.
I will say in the Browns game, he was I think 10 for 11 when he got injured. So I mean, he was doing his
Lay it
thing.
on, Chris.
What?
Lay it on.
Oh, I'm just saying he was 10 for 11, like 100 and some odd yards and a touchdown when he went out of that game. So I mean, like I said, he's Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater got like, well, Teddy Bridgewater has an injury history too. He's just bad luck, Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy's injury isn't as Teddy's injury was serious, right? Like they didn't think he was going to play again.
Career ending.
You know,
Right.
and that happened in training camp. You know, and I don't think he's been injured in season. You know, Tyrod, I don't know what happened in Buffalo, but like he got hurt in he got hurt in Cleveland. You know, whatever week that was, he got hurt.
Nothing happened to him in Buffalo. It was a coach's decision to pull him.
For
And
EJ
I can't
Manuel.
even remember the quarterback's name he pulled him for.
EJ Manuel.
No, it wasn't EJ Manuel. It was some other
Peterson.
quarterback. What was his name?
Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson.
Nate
The coach
Peterson.
decided that he thought he would be better. Tyrod led them to the playoffs and wasn't allowed to start. And he thought this other guy was a better option. And Tyrod, the same way I would feel like, I'm out of here. I want to play here. And he left.
Yeah.
And I think he went to Cleveland after that, didn't he?
Went to
Yeah, he was
Cleveland.
on Cleveland, and then he got injured. He got injured on the Thursday night game. And that was the one where it was against the Bengals. It was the second game of the season. He got injured, and that's when Baker came in and just never gave it up. After that,
And he goes to San Diego. He gets injured. The doctor punctures his lung.
like it's
Like,
not funny, but
You
it's
can't
not
make this up.
right.
It sounds like a B movie, but it's his life.
It's going to be a Lifetime movie, the Tyrod Taylor story.
Put me in, coach. The
You know,
Tyrod Taylor
I'm going to
story.
start writing the script now. I think I can sell that shit.
Oh my God. But I just don't see the Texans having a shot. I mean,
No.
What a gift for Carolina. You know, what a gift for them. You just hope that the game will be competitive. You know, I don't know a whole lot about Davis Mills. I know that Tyrod Taylor had them clicking, playing very good football. There was a lot of Houston hopefuls out there thinking that what's his name?
Sean,
Deshaun was coming back. Not a chance.
they're not playing him
They're
as they
not
should.
playing him. No, you can't do that. I don't know. How much fat is there to chew on with this game?
Not a whole lot, right? Like I think the story is Sam Darnold looks like the quarterback that the Jets drafted, right? And that says a whole lot for the Jets organization as a whole. You know, good for him. Hope he keeps it up, right? Because I'll still stick by it. I think he had the most upside of every quarterback coming out in that draft. That's due. You know, now that doesn't really bode well for up in Buffalo, right? Like that dude's playing insane, you know, and he's legit top 10 quarterback, top 5 possibly, right? Probably top 5 right now. But Sam's not playing bad, and he's got some support around him, and he's got McCaffrey, and their defense is, you know, I was watching some highlights earlier. Their defense is, the front 4 is very stout. Like they don't need to blitz, you know, and when you don't need to blitz, like that gives you an advantage. If you still put pressure on the quarterback, I feel real bad for Davis Mills. He's going to get inaugurated for his first NFL start against the defensive front 4 that's probably going to put him on his back multiple times. You know, I see the Panthers covering. I don't think that the Texans can score more than 14 points, and I think the Carolina Panthers can score probably 30.
I think I think the case study here with Sam Darnold is, as much as we want to put, say it's all about the quarterback position, it's not. Sam Dart, like, name anything close to Christian McCaffrey, like even like 50% of Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey hasn't even like lit the world on, like he's got a couple touchdowns, but he's not lighting the world on fire like he was before he got injured last year. So I mean, name anything he had in New York the entire time he was there that was like 50% of Christian McCaffrey. Like who is his best receiver in New York? Who's the guy that's been there forever? And he's on my fantasy team. I can't even think of his name.
Where?
New
Crowder.
York. Crowder. Yeah. Well, that would arguably be his best offensive weapon. I mean, he had Le'Veon. Well, he had like the corpse of Le'Veon Bell for a couple of years, right? But that's about it. Like, so I mean, I think Sam Darnold is just that case study. And hey, no matter what and this is why they need to pay attention, because you can't. This is why they should all be doing the Tom Brady deal. Like, yeah, give me the most money on the team. Give me $20 million a year, but I need pieces, because Sam Darnold's a case study. You put him on a team, give him two decent weapons in Robbie Anderson and Christian McCaffrey, and oh man, now he's going to be 3-0 after this week. Well, like you said, after the guy on the Texans, Mills gets flattened by the front four of the Panthers. So not a lot of fat to chew on this game. It's you said 8.5. I'll say Panthers cover, and give me the over on the point. Well, what was the over under? 43?
42 or 43. It's tough.
Yeah,
it's a tough call.
I'll take the over on the points, just because I see like you said, a 30-14 game. It's not going to be close. Panthers are going to win this one. It'll be over by halftime.
Speaking of Darnold, and speaking of, it's still 3 interceptions. Zach Wilson throwing for 4 in his second start, not a good look, right? Like, that is something that we have seen destroy potential star quarterbacks in the history. Just throwing it out there.
The one caveat I will give to that game, and the one saving grace to the whole thing, is it came against a Bill Belichick defense. And Bill Belichick, if you can count on any one thing from Bill Belichick, is he's going to make your rookie quarterback look foolish. And that's just what he did to Zach Wilson. It's just one of those games, Zachary, just put it behind you. It's Bill Belichick. That's what he does. It's your second game ever. Like, I swear, like, Bill Belichick just gets up early the first Monday after, when he knows he's got a rookie quarterback, and he just, I don't know, prays to whatever pagan god he worships, and that's just what happens, because he's been doing that for years. That's just what a Bill Belichick defense does against a rookie quarterback. So that's not saying it's great to throw 4 interceptions, but if you're gonna look for a way to just let it drip off your back and continue on with your career, that's the one saving grace of the whole thing.
So I missed your guys' take on the Thursday night game last week on Friday. What was your take on that? The Giants Redskins game.
Giants did Giants, man.
Yeah.
Seriously,
the Murphy's Law thing, right?
On a serious note, right? Like, there's a couple things. One, unless they get a line, Saquon's career will never be what it could be. Number one, it just won't. Like, I don't care how many moves he has. The defenses are way faster than they were 10, 20 years ago, right? And, like, as great as he is, he's got a tough road ahead of him, man, behind that offensive line. Daniel Jones surprised me. He had a pretty good game, right? Like, I like him and Sterling Shepard. I like their energy and their flow together. Rudolph is a pretty nice pickup. They just came up short, man. And like, you can't beat yourself, right?
Penalties.
You can't beat yourself. The Eagles are in the same boat, man. They had 11 penalties or 12 penalties in week 1. They had another 9 in week 2. Like, you can't do that. You know, like you can't have momentum shifting
Real
penalties.
quick, keep your thought going, but I'm gonna say 8 of the 10 penalties were earned, the other 2 for both teams, your
Yeah.
team and my team. Go
Yeah.
ahead, continue.
I mean, and that goes back to what we were starting on with this podcast earlier. Like they're just making horrible calls, and it's not even just the NFL, man. If you watch the NCAA, they're doing the same thing, man. They had some really. I was at the Penn State game on Saturday night, and like some of the calls, they got it mixed up that they had Penn State punting on 3rd down. They called it 4th down, should have been 3rd, conferred. Nope, it's still 4th. Like the stands were going nuts, right? Like this guy next to me was like, "It's not 4th down. What the hell?" You know,
And that's
like,
after 6 beers.
yeah. And it's pitiful that the refereeing of football games is still in question, right? And maybe they need to use instant replay to check themselves a little bit more. You know, I don't understand some calls. Now, back to the Giants, you can't go offsides on a field goal, right? You just can't give the guy 2 chances to make 1 field goal. Just can't do it. You knew it was good. You knew that field goal was going to be good. Second. And Heineke, I don't know. He's okay. He's not Gardner Minshew, you know. But I think he'll hold the fort down until Fitzpatrick can come back.
The one thing I would say, and I kind of hit on this when we talked about the game on Friday, if I could sum up the Giants game, it was basically when I kind of was like, okay, this is where the Giants are going to lose. It's they had a big play. I don't even remember what the play was, but they had a big play, and it was like 1st and 10 on. They were within field goal range. They were on Washington side of the field. After the big play, they had to burn a timeout because they were going to get a delay game.
All start.
Yeah, they come out of the timeout, and it was going to be a delay game, but the false start got called.
And then another false start.
And then another one, and then Eli Manning got sacked.
Manning.
Danny Jones. Danny Jones got sacked. And so they went from 1st and 10 on from the 30 to 4th and whatever from back on their side of the field, right? And they went from a definite 3 to nothing. And you just can't have that. And just touching on what Mike said, I think one of the other things I noticed, and this isn't anything against Saquon in particular, but he's right, defenses got faster. There's that one big run up it was like when Saquon ran for 40-something yards up the one side. And if you watch that replay, Chase Young is literally stride for stride with him. The defensive end is literally just stride for stride with him all the way up the field. It's scary how fast,
Chase Young is a scary dude.
Yeah. I mean, he might be the outlier right now, but that's where it's going. Like, it's going to be like you need the big uglies to protect, and unfortunately for the Giants, they just don't have them. I thought Danny Dimes outplayed Heineke, but they even won the turnover battle. It was a really clean game from that point of view. But there's just too many errors at the end, and they had that wide open touchdown that they just dropped. Which would have won the game right there. So, despite everything, they were in it to the end, but it's just, it's for as much as Mike says, the Eagles shot themselves in the foot. The Giants did it that much more last week.
Yeah.
I will never post that on the Facebook page. I will never say the Eagles shot themselves in the foot. I don't want to open up that door for Atticus.
I mean, here's
right, but
objective discussion.
With both teams, Chris said it right. Both teams had opportunities to win the game and didn't, right? And is that brand newness? Is that new coachness? Is that a combination of the two? Is it, we don't have certain players that we should have focused on putting in pieces together? It could be a multitude of things, right? But I'll go back to what Chris was saying last week. When you look at the NFC East, And the Eagles have Dallas this week, so that's going to be a huge game, right? Why not anybody in the East, right? Chris said, why not the Eagles last week after week 1, right? But why not anybody in the East, right? Like, I don't think they're as bad as they were last year collectively. I think they've all improved, but the ball's going to bounce one way or the other for all 4 teams. And whoever gets the lucky breaks or, makes the most out of opportunities is going to win that division.
Yeah. I think that Saquon's problems right now are more mental than it is the offensive line. I think the offensive line has really played a lot better. In fact, their PFF grades are much improved over where they were a year ago. Definitely on pass pro, on run blocking, they could definitely improve. But a guy like Saquon only needs a little crack to make something happen. But his mental hasn't allowed him to see that crack and move. I think he's afraid of what may happen, even though the trainers have, given him the green light. I think he's still working through some mental stuff. I'll tell you where he is very effective, and a lot of teams have not really keyed in on this yet, is they are so hyper-focused on Saquon Barkley in the backfield that is creating RPO options for Danny Dimes in major ways. That phantom holding call on CJ Board on the left side of the field when Daniel Jones ran 60 yards for a touchdown was unbelievable. Okay. So, and he ran for 95 yards. He probably really had about 120 yards had it not been for that call. The drop pass by Darius Slayton, that was another thing. But I think the Giants' biggest problem boils down to two things. There's been some coaching blunders too, but the main 2 reasons are, number one, the defense is playing too soft. They're giving up way too many underneath things, which is translating into touchdowns or converting drives, first downs, whatever the case may be. The second thing is penalties. They're just not disciplined. Like, what the hell are you? Chris said it. How do you have 2 false starts on one drive? And not for nothing, if it wasn't for Daniel Jones, they had 10 possessions on offense. 7 of them were scoring drives because of the play of the quarterback position. Because on one of those situations where they were 4th and 15 after being knocked out of field goal range, or 3rd and 15, Daniel Jones scrambled for 11 yards to bring them back into field goal range. So he had a pretty good game, but the defense and the discipline is the biggest problem I think that the Giants face right now.
So the one question, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said I concur.
Yeah. The one question I just kind of want to end today's podcast with, I talked a little bit about Mike with this before you got on, Atticus. There's a guy that had a 16-team parlay. Just for the sake of benefit of anyone who might listen to this podcast who doesn't know what a parlay is, as opposed to betting on each game individually, parlay is when you bet on a series of things happening. So it can be the outcomes of games. So instead of saying like, I bet on the Chargers to beat the Cowboys, and then I also bet on the Browns to beat the Texans, you can say I bet on the Chargers beating the Cowboys and the Browns beating the Texans, meaning both things have to happen for you to win. And you can do with any number of things. You could say, well, I take the over in this game. This team's going to cover that. This team's going to win outright, blah, 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 blah. And the more parlays, the more bits you add to this, to this bet, the better the outcome. So dude basically did a 16-team parlay. He basically bet the winner of every game. Put together so on a $25 bet, he could have won $756,000 and change, had every team that he said was going to win. And it came down to, he had the Lions beating the Packers as the last game. Had the Lions won, he would have won this whole bet. So my question for you, Atticus, if you came within a Lions over Packers of winning $750,000, what would you have done with the money, and how hard would you have cried after, especially after halftime where they were up 17-14?
If I would have won the money, what would I have done with it?
Yeah.
I'd invest it.
No, well, that's boring.
I would. I'd invest. I mean, I might take my wife out somewhere real nice, but I'm putting that money into something that's going to make me money while I'm sleeping.
I mean, it's
And
magical
it is
dining.
boring, but that's me all day.
It's magical dining here in Orlando, so you can take her to a nice restaurant for only $30, my friend. Get that appetizer and dessert going. What about you, Lloyd? How hard would you cry after being up 17-14, 30 minutes away from $750,000 just to watch Aaron Rodgers throw 4 touchdown passes and take your funds away?
I might have swallowed up into a crack smoking hole if that had happened. One, like what prompted me to pick Detroit in the first place? I would have been second guessing that.
You were
forever.
already smoking crack.
You know, like what happened there? No, man, something would be broken. I'd be angry. You probably wouldn't want to see me for weeks. Like it would be bad, right? Like and I don't even know what prompts somebody to make a 16-team parlay to begin with, let alone, I mean, $25, not a big deal, I guess. You know, like
at that point, is that they're probably about the same odds as buying $25 worth of lotto tickets for a Mega Millions. So why not? I mean, to me, that's like I'm in Vegas. Why not? Sure. I'm just going to bet on every single winner. It's going to cost me $20. Okay. Like,
but aren't there some gimme games? Like, wouldn't the Packers over the Lions been a gimme game?
Was it straight up or with the points?
No, it was straight up. That's just what his parlay was. Every team straight up. And what I don't know, so I don't know how they calculate, like, okay, if you bet $25, you're going to win 750,000. Part of that's based on who you're picking to win, right? So I don't know. Maybe it just gets to a point where you're like, picking the Packers to win costs you $200,000 if it happens. Because if you're doing a 16, like, let's be honest,
so
like
$500,000 versus a gimme game,
right? But you don't really expect to win 6 pick. Like, okay, just to give you an example, before every NCAA basketball season, I put $20 on my Ohio Bobcats to win the whole thing, because usually there's something ridiculous like 2,000-1 odds.
Well,
so it's like,
that's
sure.
Just dumb. I think you should just give me and Atticus $10.
So I'll throw down a 20
like,
spot.
that's stupid.
I'll throw down a 20 spot on the chances that they, one year I did it, they made it all the way to the Sweet 16 and they were like 3,001 odds. They weren't even projected. They were even projected to have a winning record. So, it's for the fun of it. And I guess my point is, at that point, once you've picked the other 15 games, sure, let's just go for the extra 200,000 at that point, because you don't really expect to get to that point. I mean,
see,
there's a reason why it's a news story. There's a reason why ESPN picks up that story going into the game, because it's not every day someone makes a 16-team parlay and hits on the first 15.
No, certainly not every day, but there is some science to it. If you're a bettor and you follow the sport and you can do research, you can find out who's injured. You could dig in to make educated decisions on who's going to win the game. Still not a perfect science, but like, you're not just randomly picking. It's not like, hey, Matilda, circle the winners of each game, right? Like, that's not what happens. So like, I'm still baffled with the choice. Straight up in Lambeau, especially, did he really think that the same Green Bay team was going to show up? That's what had to happen. Had to think that had to be it. It's Green Bay's done. They suck. They're going to be terrible this year.
Or maybe Detroit happen to be a Detroit Lions fan.
And Detroit almost pulled the game out versus San Fran in week 1. And right. and Goff is balling right now.
He really is.
It's. Maybe it's not that far of a stretch, but I still wouldn't have picked him.
I wouldn't have picked him either.
I would have liked 750.
And I just want to reiterate, I don't know what the difference between picking the Packers in that spot. So I'm just saying $200,000, but I'm also completely pulling $200,000 out my butt. It could be up like a $700,000 difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
A
Probably
tougher game to
not,
call
but-
would have been the Bears versus the Browns this week. That'd have been a tougher game,
Right.
not the Lions in a.
I mean,
Lions
the
and
Browns
Packers.
the Browns are gonna crush them, but we didn't even talk about the Browns that much. See, Lori said I used to talk about the Browns all the time. Look at this.
I thought we were going to get out of it. I thought we were
You
gonna
talked
get-
about Baker's shoulder.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, okay. We spent more time recapping the Giants game again than we spent talking about the Browns.
You guys got more time. I don't know how you fit 2 podcasts in a week. My schedule is so difficult to do that.
Step 1, no kids. Step 2.
Mike's got kids. His kids are big. They do, they're self-sufficient right now.
All right, gentlemen. So when are we putting together our 16 team parlay? When's that happening?
I mean, shit, let's do it. I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to find if it tells us anywhere if he had picked the Green Bay to win.
What he would have won?
Yeah, what if it would have went the exact same way if you would have picked? Yeah, I don't even know how you go about, like, I think it's one of those things you have to, because it also depends on when he picked them, right? Because as the odds change, you know what I'm saying? So if like he did it at the tail end of week 1, the odds might have been different. Like, had he done it 20 minutes before kickoff on Sunday.
I actually saw that graphic too when they put it up during the game. I didn't know what they were talking about because I don't gamble or bet. When you guys say, are they going to cover? I just sit here and listen, but I don't know. They gave.
Plus, I said for anyone who might be listening, I was explaining parlays for you because I knew you didn't know.
I appreciate that. And there's no shame in me for not knowing. I'm cool with it.
If it makes you feel better, like the only reason why I don't gamble on sports, the only reason why I know the terminology is because it became such a big deal. I used to listen to Bill Simmons, and their whole thing was about they had a whole podcast where they would just sit there and pick what the lines were, and I didn't know what they were talking about, so I just went out and learned what they were talking about so I could follow along that particular podcast. So that's and that's how you know you're a degenerate gambler, when you can like look at 2 teams and they would accurately predict the Vegas lines. So
he was playing the odds.
What'd you say?
He was playing the odds.
What do you mean?
So the 175, so it was straight up, but like he couldn't have even cashed, like it was a free bet, so there was a lot of things also going on. He wouldn't have won the money even if Detroit won.
Why not?
Why wouldn't he?
Because it was a free bet, and there's rules behind free bets.
So he didn't spend $25?
No, it was the 25 was probably a like, hey, sign up for BetMGM, we'll give you $25. That $25 is actually not real money. It's like play money, but you can still win. You just don't win as much.
So what
Like
would
you
he
have to hit a
won?
certain level before you win.
That'd be hilarious if they paid out. That'd be like, that's like me like buying Atticus like a lotto ticket, like just like a scratch off for his birthday, and he wins like $1 million. You're just like, awesome. Which, by the way, all I ever ask is if that happens, if you could just pay off my student loans. That's really all I'd want out of that exchange.
I got you.
If I win your $1
got
million somehow, I appreciate it.
My man.
So by the way, Lloyd, did you just
would have won
agree with me?
$3,400?
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take.
Yeah, why
I
not?
mean, it's not 750. I mean, the 750.
If it was real money, it would have been 750. And if you wanted to hedge the bet going into the game and take the odds for Green Bay, it would have cost him $580,000 to wind up netting 100.
I'd have did that too.
Probably if you had $580,000,
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's got 580 grand.
I'm
laying
pretty
around.
sure. I'm pretty sure Atticus has $580,000 sitting in unused refrigerators in his garage. So
Either that or just fireworks storage, something like that. One of the two.
he shot off $500,000 worth of fireworks at the barbecue.
Oh man. What's crazy is I've already got a stockpile for the next barbecue.
Nice.
Can you transport those down to Key
No.
West?
It won't be to. No, I'm not even trying to do that. I wouldn't even do that.
You
I think it
can't-
might.
I don't
be,
think you're even allowed to light fireworks off of Key West.
Yeah. No, this would be like a at my house type of deal, like a 4th of July thing.
Gotcha. Do you know why you can't shoot off fireworks in Key West? You'll scare the chickens. You can't.
So
There
what
are
is-
chickens. There. Have you guys ever been to Key West? You've been to Key
Yeah.
West, Mike, right?
A couple times.
Yeah, the chickens. You've seen the free roaming chickens that
Yep.
just walk. You can't do anything to the chickens. You can't harass them. You can't even like spook them so they get out of the way of your car. Like for whatever reason, I don't know what the legend is behind it, but you can't mess with chickens in Key West.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah. So when we're down there next year, if you see a chicken, just gotta let us do its thing. Can't mess with it.
Cool.
Anyway, so why don't we go ahead and get going? It's been a great podcast. Start working on that 16 team, $25 parlay. I could use
and bet real money.
Yeah, I mean
And,
25
and we
bucks.
should get Andy into this. Telling you.
I agree.
How many times would we have to win to be able to buy 30% of the Chargers?
What was it? It was like 3 mil or something like that, or 300
I
mil.
mean, really, so we just need to nail it like 4 weeks in a row, and let's do it.
300 mil, and we could own San Diego or Los Angeles Chargers. Yo,
Wow.
Speaking of which, that SoFi Stadium looks like a fucking museum. It's a really nice piece of architecture, man. I like it better. Like the Vegas one, it's just it's the Death Star, right? It looks like you're coming up to the Death Star, which is kind of cool in its own right. But SoFi in Los Angeles is a hell of a stadium, man. Don't know what it's like inside, but
Well, I will tell you, we're for my work coming up here in October, we're doing a conference in Vegas, and I know one of the nights they like rented the field at what's the Las Vegas field called? I can't remember. Yeah. So we're gonna be on the field for that. So I think that'll be pretty cool. So we can do a side-by-side comparison. Just one of you guys has to get on the SoFi Stadium field.
yeah.
Make it happen. Hey, you know what? We went on one of these 25, these 16 team parlays, and we'll have the kind of money to do that. We can rent it out for 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
All right, gentlemen, it's been fun. I'll see you guys on Friday.
Friday,
Got some more picks.
we got to do it like at 7 o'clock for Atticus's bedtime, though.
It's true. That is true. Yeah, just let me
7
know ahead
o'clock.
of time. So
That's a good time for me though.
7 o'clock Friday nights.
Yeah,
Lock it in.
Saturday we'll do our picks and we'll discuss the 3-0 Panthers. Just as everyone predicted.
Just
All
as
right.
everyone thought was going to happen.
What's funny is they're going to be 3-0, and the Jets are going to be 0-3.
Jets are in bad shape, man. Like, not only are they predicted to finish like one of the worst teams in the league again, right? This is with everything they did. This is with Robert Salah. They were still picked like 30th or 29th. Maybe even 31st.
What surprises me most is how silent Gorky has been.
I think Gorky's got some other shit going on. Is he all right?
I know he does, but
All right.
he has always found a way to say some dumb shit about the Jets that everybody knew was stupid except him. I don't know.
Yeah.
So just a quick look at their schedule. First potential victory I see for the Jets is week 5 against the Falcons at home.
Why is everybody picking
hold on.
on
That
Falcons?
says 9:30 a.m. So that means it's like in
London.
Yeah. Oof.
That's the only way they can win.
They're not gonna. I'm gonna call it right now.
That'll be the pillow fight of the week. And then I see another opportunity. God, what week is that? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Week 11, they're at the Texans.
Well, that's the number 1 draft pick fucking game right there.
Yeah. And then a couple weeks after that, they're home versus the Jaguars. So those are the 3, Gorky, you can circle, because then after the Jaguars, they're at home versus Tampa Bay. That's not going to happen. So those are the 3, Gorky. Circle my
Well,
account.
Tampa Bay might be resting their starters for that game.
So you're saying
They'll
there's
still lose.
oof. Real quick, and then we'll go, because I know I keep saying like, yeah, we're done. I'm looking at, so because I have the Jets on, it's showing me the team leaders. If you were to take a guess at to what Zach Wilson's QBR is right now.
30.9, 30, no, 19.
Lower.
Lower than 19?
Lower than 19.
Oh my.
I think if I was to show up as a backup quarterback, go on the field to take a knee in victory formation, I'm pretty sure my QBR would be higher than the 17.1 that Zachary Wilson is rocking right now.
So his rating, which is actually higher, right? I like QBR because it incorporates everything. But rating, you could compare historically, right? Like, because we weren't doing QBR 20 years ago. But his rating is 56.1, which is paltry. That's bad.
Oh my.
Isn't it you can get like 59 if you just show up to the games and like don't get like you don't even have to complete a pass. Like you could go 0 for 12, but just not get picked off and you get a 59 or something like that.
Is this the SATs or something? I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's something about about the quarterback rating where you can like just showing up to the game and
In
not
uniform on the sideline.
Yeah, like the backup quarterback has his 59 just by showing up in uniform. Like
Pop quiz. Who is the Jets' leading receiver without looking?
God.
Crowder?
No, Crowder hasn't played yet. He's been out.
Well, that's why I said Crowder.
Braxton Berrios.
Gazoon tight.
Braxton Berrios.
Oof.
You know, he's on multiple fantasy teams that I own.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess he's available in most fantasy formats right now.
I never even heard of this guy until I just looked it up.
Wow.
Like they got Corey Davis. They had drafted Elijah, what's his name? Mitchell, right? Or Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. They have, Corey Davis. They have back. So Braxton Berrios, I'm looking at it. He's got 124 yards. You know who he has 126 more yards than?
Who?
The Giants' first round pick. What's his face? Tony. What is it? Just bringing it full circle.
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
Do you know who the PFF Offensive Player of the Week was this past week?
Jordan Mailata.
I know Nick Chubb was the FedEx ground game of the week.
Danny Dimes.
Danny had a good game, man. We talked about it. Sorry you missed that one.
I'm clinging on to anything at 0-2, baby.
You know who's not the top offensive playmaker of the week? Your first round draft pick,
Kadarius Toney.
sitting there in your chair, have more receiving yards than. What's his name again?
Kadarius Toney.
Negative Tony. Yeah. Oh man, good times. And I'm dropping stuff.
He's actually got one reception for -2 yards, I think, for the year.
That takes talent. That takes
generational work. Talent.
I mean, you can't. The three of us combined have more NFL receiving yards.
It's true. That is factual right now.
Then your boy Darius.
Listen,
Tony.
We have better
NFL
fantasy
receiving
numbers than,
yards.
I mean, I'm just
Oh.
saying, Dave Gettleman, hey, I can do -2 yards in over 2 games. Man, he is averaging -1 yard a game in the NFL.
It's terrible. Terrible. All right, gentlemen. Friday, 7 p.m. We'll be talking about this Thursday night fiasco. We'll see how it goes.
Then we'll
All right.
preview so we'll highlight some games. We'll rapid fire some games. It'll be fun. Bring your popcorn. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Later.